Hi everyone, Ricky here from Towards Better. I've been asked to come on and talk to you today about independence, confidence, and purpose as they relate to valued social roles. More specifically, I've been asked regularly about how someone might become more independent, how someone might have more confidence, might find purpose and be included. And sometimes this can be a person themselves asking me who might be feeling the opposite of some of these things, dependent, not confident, lacking purpose. Or it could be a loved one in their life, a family member, a partner, a friend. And so one way that we can, many people do bring about and have more of these things like independence and confidence and purpose is through the roles that we have. And when we say roles, we mean a socially expected pattern of behavior. And in addition to behavior, roles also come with responsibilities and expectations, and all of those things encompass a role. So if I, for example, name a role that I have, such as baseball player or committee member or business owner, or roles that other people might have, such as doctor or plumber, you would have an expectation of those roles. What you'd have an expectation of what you would see and hear in one role versus another, and that's because each of these roles comes with behaviors and responsibilities. There's also expectations of someone's image and their personal appearance, what they look like. There's expectations about who they would be with, the grouping of people they'd be with, whether it's other people or customers, for example, that where you might find them, so the settings, and also the timing of this role of like when and where you might see this happening. And also privileges come with roles. So if I take the role of doctor, you would expect that they would be, treating patients, writing notes, uh, moving from, client to client. They'd be with other medical professionals, other doctors and nurses, um, and other people on a medical team. They'd be in hospitals or GP clinics. They would have a lot of knowledge in the medical field. They'd be talking language about diagnoses and, past reports and history and health. Um, they'd have an appearance of, a certain coat and type of pants and shoes and the, stethoscope and other things that come with it. And there's also privileges that come with a role. So, the role of doctor comes with, the privilege of being quite esteemed in your knowledge there. If a doctor works for themselves, it might also come with the privilege of choosing their own hours, so to speak. And so when we think about a role like that, when we link it back to independence, uh, the role of doctor, and it could be the same to be said about the role of plumber or, um, a business owner. Those the things that those roles give you that lead to independence are things like money, relationships, money that leads to being able to have a home of your own, a purpose to your day that leads to having to be more self-sufficient. Money that also allows you to buy a car or a bus ticket or pass so you can get around and be more independent. And so roles also exist on a continuum, and this is based on the values of our society. And so you might think of the roles in your own life, and I've named a few of mine, but roles like neighbor or team member or athlete or sport, OzTag player, friend, club member, student, or some relationship roles like father, son, brother, cousin, all of which are quite typical and valued. And at the more highly, those are kind of in the midsection of what's valued. And in the highly valued end, we have things like Olympian and award winner and other things like esteemed elder. And then on the other end of the continuum are roles that people don't aspire to, the roles of sort of low status that bring very little purpose in life. They can be things like menace, forever child, or eternal child or child again for some of those older adults. They can be roles like, burden on the family or drain on the taxpayer, criminal. Um, And then there's the role of client, which is quite interesting because for many people with a valued status, they might be clients of a number of things. Maybe they're clients of a barber or hairdresser, clients of an accountant, a business advisor. They might be a client of a GP or, a masseuse. For people with a devalued status, living, on the margins of society, they might be a client forever. So people with a valued status, they go in and out of that client role quite a bit, and it takes up a small portion of the day. You might go to the hairdresser for an hour, and so you're a client there, but then the rest of the day you're a business owner or a student or um, a homemaker. For people with a devalued status, the client role takes up large portions of the week. They get up and they're a client of a group home, or they're a client because someone's showing up. A support person is that they're paying is showing up in their home, and then they leave home and they might be a client of a service that supports them individually, or they might be a client of a group program or a day program or sheltered workshop, and then they might have other appointments where they're also a client of that, and that also extends into the weekends, being a client of a variety of leisure activities, and even things that look like sporting roles or other social, leisure type roles might actually be the client of a service that runs a particular program. And so this becomes quite life defining for someone. The clienthood becomes their identity almost above and beyond that person's existing identity of who they are. If someone asked me who I was, I could give them my name and talk about the roles that I have of, I'm a father, talk about my kids, where I live, business, a variety of my leisure roles that I have, my citizen role of where I've come from and where I am now. People with a devalued status don't have that identity, and that identity that also brings independence, which we'll go into here. So in essence, the more valued roles that a person has, and the more valued those roles are, the more likely it is that someone has reasons to get out of bed, has purpose for their day. An employee role means that you have to get out of bed, get yourself going, and get to work at a certain time. You have to have a way to get to work, lunch packed, a certain appearance. You have to be somewhere. Other people are counting on you. Some roles have a lot of complementarity. So if you're a teacher, you not only have that purpose to your day, but there's students that are waiting on you. Employees, the coworkers are waiting on you. Even the homemaker role has an essence of some purpose to an extent. And the more roles that a person has, the more likely it is someone is going to have more opportunities to become more confident. And this is in part because roles bring us opportunities to build competence or skills. They require a certain number of skills to have a certain role. So if I think about the role of plumber, well, that requires a certain number of knowledge about getting to and from various places. It requires knowledge about plumbing and the tools and parts and suppliers and a number of things. And the more opportunities we have to learn new things and to test the current knowledge that we have, the more confident we become. And the more confident we become, the more likely it is we're going to try new things and challenge ourselves. And that cycle continues. It's the confidence competence loop. And when we think back to independence and confidence and purpose, all of that intertwines. If I think about the role of plumber, or any role really that brings us a financial gain or money, what better way to build our feelings and perception of our independence than a role that brings you money? There's some sayings about that money can solve most things, and obviously there's not everything. But money does bring us a lot of great things, especially opportunities for independence, opportunities to have a home of our own, or to afford a more expensive share house, or it brings us opportunities for leisure pursuits, a way to look after our self-image. It brings us opportunities to travel. It brings us the ability to have a car of our own, or buy a bus pass that we can get around in. And so much of our independence is actually linked to the roles that we hold and the extent at which those roles are valued or devalued. And also, roles give us relationships. And so if I think about being an employee or even being a plumber, they'd be working with other plumbers. They'd have clients. They'd have an identity of, I'm a plumber. There might be a network of tradesmen that get together. And so in essence, they'd have some mates around that, and people, business connections that they would know. There might be a ongoing continuing learning that they're doing outside of that, and so they're connected to other students. And these are not people who are paid to relate to them. Much of the client role that we see with people who are living on the margins of society, these are paid relationships that people have. And so they don't have the roles that connect them to unpaid people that are going to help them become more independent. Because many of the roles that people with valued status have, which lead to relationships, actually people are quite interdependent. So they rely on other people, like their husband or wife, or their coworker, or their manager, or another student, or another teammate. They're not paying these people though, but the people that have those roles are appearing to be more independent, when in reality they're depending on someone else. They're just not paying that person for that, or at least not the majority of the time. And people also derive a lot of their purpose from relationship roles that are ascribed or just happen. So being a son or a daughter, or a cousin or brother or sister, isn't a role you have to achieve. It happens. You have to maintain it, but much of our independence and purpose and identity comes from those relationship roles as well. And so it's important in thinking about roles to first start with the person, appreciating who they are, what their life has been like thus far, what they need to do now and in the future, based on their age, their gender, their culture, and what's typical and valued at that state in life, what their strengths, their gifts, their capacities are, and who's in their unpaid social network at the moment. Much as person-centered planning or service planning or lifestyle planning or NDIS planning talks about these things, but it doesn't quite hit the mark. And so there's the question of, how do we take this knowledge about a person and move it beyond these service-focused documents and into action? And this is where social role valorization and some of the valued role goals that we've sort of talked about have a lot of value to add. Overall, valued roles lead to more choices, not less. They lead to choices about bigger things, of who we want to become, what type of life we want to live. They lead to choices from bigger things, not smaller things. Smaller things being like, what shirt do you want to wear, this or that? What do you want to eat for lunch, this or that? Where do you want to go, here or there? What program do you want to be a part of, A or B? Those are small choices. Our valued roles actually open up a wide range of possibilities that are quite life-opening and life-altering if executed correctly. And so in summary, when we're thinking about independence, confidence, purpose, and inclusion, or if you're thinking about this for yourself or someone in your life, let's think roles, not services, programs, activities, outings, or something that is special or separate. Thank you.